When things don't go your way, pressure builds. You feel blocked, underestimated, or held back. And sooner or later, that pressure turns into anger. Most people deal with it the same way. The moment anger shows up, they let it out. They argue, they react. They say things they can't take back. For a moment, it feels like relief. Then, the energy is gone. All that fire burned fast and left nothing behind but regret and exhaustion. Musashi saw anger differently. In his world, emotion was never something to express. It was something to convert. Anger meant intensity, pressure, readiness, but only if it stayed contained. The moment it leaked outward, it ruined timing and destroyed judgment. So he trained himself not to vent anger, but to aim it. Anger became longer hours of training, sharper attention, relentless repetition. When he felt resentment, frustration, or defiance, he didn't discharge it socially. He carried it into discipline, into preparation, into action that actually changed outcomes. Think about your own life, the anger that comes from being underestimated, disrespected, blocked. That feeling isn't a flaw, it's raw fuel. When you waste it on reaction, it disappears. When you suppress it, it turns inward and rots. But when you direct it with discipline, anger becomes momentum. There are moments when progress accelerates, not because life gets easier, but because resistance turns into drive. Anger creates those moments, not when it controls you, but when you control where it goes. This isn't about calming down. It's about using the fire without letting it burn you. Chapter 2: When Anger Ruins Timing. Musashi warned that anger becomes dangerous the moment it takes control of timing. In the Book of Five Rings, Fire Scroll, he explains that when the spirit is disturbed, movement becomes rushed, vision narrows, and judgment collapses. A strike made from emotion feels powerful, but it arrives at the wrong moment, and in combat, the wrong moment is defeat. This wasn't theory. Musashi watched skilled fighters lose before the blades even crossed, not because they lacked strength, but because anger pulled them forward too early. One of the clearest examples is his duel with Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro was fast, proud, and emotionally charged. When Musashi arrived late to the duel, it wasn't an accident, it was psychological pressure. Kojiro's irritation grew. His focus narrowed. When he finally attacked, it was sharp, but impatient. His anger compressed his timing forward. Musashi stayed grounded, waited for the exact opening, and ended the fight in a single strike. Kojiro didn't lose because he was weaker. He lost because emotion decided when he moved. Musashi later wrote that you must never let emotion set your rhythm. Rhythm belongs to the one who controls their inner state. Anger that leaks outward becomes predictable. Anger that is contained remains invisible and therefore dangerous. The lesson is brutal and simple. Anger doesn't betray you. Mistimed anger does. When you act the moment you feel it, you give up initiative. When you delay, refine, and choose the moment, anger becomes an advantage instead of a liability. This is why Musashi never struck from emotion. He used anger to sharpen preparation, then acted with clarity. Timing, not intensity, decides the outcome. Chapter 3: Never Strike from Emotion. Musashi was explicit about one rule that separated survival from death: never let emotion decide your action. In the Book of Five Rings, Fire Scroll, he explains that when the spirit rises too high, technique collapses. Anger tightens the body, shortens vision, and forces movement before the moment is ready. To strike while emotionally charged feels decisive, but it is almost always premature. This is where most people misunderstand Musashi. He did not remove anger. He delayed action until anger stopped interfering with perception. Emotion was allowed to exist, but it was never allowed to command. Musashi wrote that the warrior must keep the spirit calm even while attacking, because clarity is what allows you to see openings others miss. This principle shows up again in Dokkodo, his final teachings. One precept states, "Do not be guided by the feeling of lust or love." Musashi wasn't speaking only about desire. He meant any emotion that pulls you into impulsive behavior, anger included. Acting from emotion makes your movement predictable, and predictability is weakness. Musashi trained himself to feel anger without expressing it. When insulted, challenged, or pressured, he did not respond immediately. He absorbed the feeling, slowed the moment, and let emotion sharpen awareness instead of blinding it. Only then did he move. In modern life, this is where people lose advantage. They fire off messages, confront too early, make decisions while heated. They believe speed equals strength, but Musashi understood that initiative is not the same as haste. True initiative comes from choosing the moment, not reacting to it. Anger can give you intensity, but clarity decides where that intensity lands. When you strike emotionally, you surrender control of the encounter. When you wait, you force the other side to reveal itself. This is why Musashi never fought to release emotion. He fought to end the conflict decisively. Emotion was fuel for preparation, not execution. And the moment you understand this, anger stops being something that controls you and becomes something you control. Chapter 4. Turning Anger into Speed. Musashi did not waste anger on reaction. He converted it into preparation. When frustration appeared, it did not send him outward. It drove him inward into harder training, sharper discipline, and stricter control of himself. In the Book of Five Rings, he explains that victory is decided before contact is made, not in the strike, but in the state of readiness. Anger, when refined, accelerates that readiness. This is where anger becomes useful, not in confrontation, but in compression. Musashi used resentment, pressure, and hostility as signals to train more intensely. When challenged, he didn't rush to respond. He increased repetition. When insulted, he didn't argue. He sharpened skill. Anger became a force that shortened the distance between effort and result. Most people do the opposite. They discharge anger socially, through arguments, explanations, emotional displays. That feels satisfying, but it produces nothing. Musashi treated anger as private fuel. It belonged to discipline, not expression. In Dokkodo, Musashi writes about detachment from pleasure and comfort. This wasn't asceticism for its own sake. It was efficiency. Comfort slows reaction time. Emotional indulgence wastes energy. Anger, when held and redirected, strips away hesitation. It removes softness. It creates urgency without chaos. This is why disciplined anger produces speed. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop waiting to feel ready. You train while others recover emotionally. You prepare while others react. Over time, this creates a gap that feels unfair to those watching from the outside. Musashi didn't win because he was angry in battle. He won because anger had already done its work long before the encounter. It pushed him to outlast others in training, to endure solitude, to refine skill when no one else was willing to stay. Anger does not make you reckless by default. It makes you urgent. When urgency is disciplined, progress accelerates. Results arrive faster, not because you moved emotionally, but because you prepared relentlessly. This is how anger becomes speed, Not loud, not visible, but decisive. Chapter 5. Fire that does not burn you. Most people who try to use anger eventually destroy themselves with it. They push too hard, too emotionally, too recklessly. They confuse intensity with progress. Musashi did the opposite. He understood that fire is only useful when it is controlled. Otherwise, it consumes the one who carries it. In his later years, Musashi wrote Dokkodo, a set of final rules for living. One of the clearest messages is restraint, not weakness, but sustainability. He warned against excess, emotional indulgence, and attachment to momentary feeling. This is why Musashi could live a life of relentless effort without collapsing. His anger was never allowed to run wild. It was rationed, directed, used only where it produced results. Musashi did not live in a constant state of rage. That would have destroyed clarity. Instead, anger appeared when needed, as pressure, urgency, and resolve, and disappeared once its purpose was served. He returned to stillness after action. This is what kept him sharp for decades, while others burned out after a few intense years. This is the final lesson. Anger is not a lifestyle. It is a tool. You bring it out when resistance appears. You apply it to discipline, preparation, and decisive action. Then you put it away. The moment anger becomes your identity, it stops serving you. In modern life, this distinction matters more than ever. If you live emotionally charged every day, you exhaust yourself. But if you access anger only to cut through hesitation, laziness, or fear, you move faster without breaking down. You act, recover, and return to balance. Musashi mastered this rhythm: fire when necessary, stillness afterward. No attachment to the emotion itself, only to the outcome it produced. Anger, when disciplined, makes you dangerous. Anger, when uncontained, makes you fragile. Use the fire. Do not live inside it. And that is how anger becomes a weapon instead of a weakness.